Welcome to Daily World Television. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host, and we're here for a very special episode. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm not hyping it. It really is special. This gentleman sitting next to me is the big cheese of the Lalit Group of hotels. Okay, he is the man.
I eat a lot of cheese, yes, that's for sure.
And he has one of the greatest senses of humor that I've encountered as a journalist. It's just wonderful to talk to this man. And I will tell you honestly, as a foreigner in India, I've been to a lot of different countries, as you know, 27 of them. And I must say that this hotel is my absolute favorite. And I say that because it provides the complete experience. When you're here, you can focus on what you need to do. You don't worry about anything. It's all thought through. The attention to detail is incredible. Steve Jobs would have been proud. And for people who know that, you know what I'm talking about. So without any further ado...
Steve Jobs who?
That guy who started the little computer company. Yes. I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Keshav Suri.
Hi.
So, give us a short version of your amazing story.
Oh, God. There's no short version, and I feel bad for the light guy because his arms are going to break.
That's okay.
But in a nutshell, I was born in Delhi. I grew up also in Delhi. I went to a Christian missionary Catholic Irish brothers school. So I'm like a Catholic schoolboy.
Okay.
All boys school, and then I went to which is also funny enough my father's alma mater as well.
Okay.
And then I went to study in the UK. So I went to the University of Warwick and I did law and business studies there. And then I did my first master's at King's College London, which was in international management, and then I did my LLM in SOAS, which is School of Oriental and African Studies, also in London. And then my father passed away, and then I moved back to India. I always knew that I was going to end up in hospitality, and that is one of the reasons why I decided not to study hospitality. Because a lot of people have asked me that question as to if you were going to end up in hotels, then hospitality is a science as well. There's technical aspects, and maybe and there are schools and fantastic universities. But my all answer was that if I don't educate myself on something else, I'm always going to have this sort of myopic tunnel vision, and then I'm going to always feel that damn it, I should have learned something else. And I always believe that what you study is not always what you practice in real life. And for me, school was not just about an education to a means to an end to end up in a profession.
Yeah.
For me, school was actually to broaden my my skills as well as to broaden my mind and to really understand and to pick up as many things that I probably would not pick up, living in India or being in hospitality. So that is why I wanted to study law. And when I did my LLM, it was an intercollegiate program, which was actually 4 universities. They stopped that program, it was last year. And I did very sort of random courses. I did a very general LLM where I did, courses like role of economics and competition law. And then suddenly I would have women's studies, which I took in LSE. And then I would have music and licenses in intellectual property. None of it which I'm using right now.
But talk about a well-rounded education and diverse education. Seriously.
Yeah. Yes, that's something that I fought with my parents for actually, because they were very much like, no, you should study hospitality. And my mum went with me to Lausanne in Switzerland, which is a brilliant school for hospitality, and she fell in love with the place so much, and she was like, I want a house here. But I was like, if I am here, I will die. It's in the middle of nowhere, and I'm going to get no education and beyond just the fantastic education of the school. No offense to Switzerland or or
No,
Lausanne, but
I understand
slightly dull.
Switzerland, it's one of my favorite countries, but it looks like it's been vacuumed.
Yeah.
You know, it's picture postcard perfect,
Yeah.
but can they let their hair down a little bit? You know,
I don't know. And I was like 17. You know, at 17,
You want
I
your-
would appreciate it now.
Yeah.
Probably at 31, but at 17, that or London, anybody would pick London.
Yes, yes. Speaking-
but more so, not just, it wasn't just the place, it was just that I was very, I had this idea when I was 16, actually, when we were starting to look at universities, that that I don't think I was a very good student and I was very happy studying, and I again always went into education. I think a lot of times when people go wrong, they go into an education to think that it's gonna be, and which is fine, which I guess is I have a different life and everyone has a different life, but for me I always viewed education as a way for me to actually not go into that particular profession, for me to broaden just my own horizons. And that's what I think led for me to fight this battle of not doing hospitality and actually doing law and business studies.
I understand. It's actually quite logical. Seriously. I mean, if you tell most parents, I'm going to go to school because I'm not interested in being a lawyer, but I want to take law, they'd say, well, I'm not going to waste my money.
Yeah.
But you're in a field where if you don't feel it, it's mechanical.
Yeah.
And it's going to feel empty over time.
Yeah.
And I think that coldness, if you will, I see in other hotels, seriously. And I remember years ago, some of the famous ones, they're now over here.
Yeah.
They feel cold and mechanical.
Yeah.
They don't feel organic. They don't feel holistic.
Yep.
And that's the key. Now, your club is famous for this right here. So you have to tell us the story.
Of that?
Yes, uncensored, of course.
Uncensored.
Yes, even though it's India, uncensored.
Oh, I've never been one to censor myself, even if it is India.
Good for you.
North Korea, and I would not censor myself. But then I would be killed. No, when I came back from England and I started working, which also was sort of organic process, pushed because of the fact that my father passed away, and then all of us decided to stop being students and kids and start working. I started, of course, going through the grassroots levels, going through all the various touch points and sitting with all the corporate functional heads. But over, I think, 2 or 3 years, I was like, the city at that time, Delhi, was not forward in a lot of its food and beverage offerings. Delhi today is very different. So I'm talking about almost 7 years ago.
Okay.
7 years ago, there was hardly maybe one other nightclub. There was not that many restaurants. Hoskas Village is not what it was then, what it is today especially, and all the other places, Meherchand Market and Lodi Market, all of that has just happened. It's all happened in the last 5 years.
Okay.
In fact, not probably even the last 4. So at that time it was just, I was like, if I'm going to live here and if I'm going to work here, then I need to have a place where I can go out and party here as well.
Yeah.
Where my friends would also be able to go out and party. And then we had this space. We had a nightclub many years ago that my parents had actually opened. And it's very funny. They had opened it, it was called Annabelle's. And it ran very successfully. And there was a letter that they did a members only room. One of the parts of it was a members only room. And they wrote this letter as if Annabelle's was this real life character, woman. And she's inviting you to the party. And, but I hadn't, I knew about it, but I hadn't read the history.
Okay.
On its own, when we were like, what do we call this space? I came up with Kirisu, and then it was also she was also a character that I sort of developed.
Okay.
If I were a woman, I would be like her. Is pretty much that. It's like if I were, I just put myself as a woman in that character, and that's why this whole story came about her living this sort of crazy lifestyle. She's this complete crazy person who has a room for the VIPs and a room for the normal people, and then she has her dressing room, which is also a party place, and she died. She overdosed on champagne and Sobrani's cigarettes.
What do I know?
on the pot, and that was the end of her story. But how famous and fabulous she was, and how she was obsessed with fashion and music and Indian culture, and especially the Kama Sutra aspect of Indian culture. So a bit like Madonna.
Okay.
And then so that character I developed, and then I started using her and Kirisu as a sort of name to make it personalized, the nightclub.
Okay.
Because one of the reasons that I went into this nightclub was that because a lot of nightclubs historically across the world, and especially in Delhi, they open and they shut very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But I was like, even if I do shut, the good thing is that this is my space. I'm not paying a rent. I can do whatever I want to do with it.
Right,
It doesn't
right,
do
right.
well. It doesn't do well, I'll open something else. But the character Kirisu can still live on.
Good point. Good point.
You know, so she can still, you know, through social media, through this book that I've written, not book, but this sort of little booklet that I've written about her and her story, and maybe and then I started doing some merchandise, and then, you know, maybe tomorrow I make a movie on her or whatever. The character and the name Kirisu will still live on,
So
even
we'll-
if the physical aspect of the club doesn't. And so that was what I went into. And then when we had this space, I decided for the first time, actually in any club in India, there were I divided into 4 different rooms, which are soundproof rooms, which have their own DJ console, their own toilets, their own bars. 3 of those rooms are on the same floor, on the same level. So usually you have these rooms one on top of each other.
Yeah.
But I actually have 3 rooms on the same floor and then one below it.
And each one is a dedicated theme, dedicated focus.
Yes.
So whatever you're up for, you can go in
Yeah.
there and max it.
So one of them is called The List, which was Kirisu's list, which is the who's who. One of them is the salon, which is her salon, and then the dressing room downstairs, which is hers.
Okay.
So basically all just came together as the story of Kirisu. And it's funny because I didn't know that Annabelle's also was a female character, and they also, and my parents also used her in the first person when they would send out any sort of information, and it would always be from Annabelle's. And then when I wrote all of this and showed it to my mom was like, wait a minute. And then she went into archives and she showed me Annabelle's membership, and she said, look. And I had no idea. But it's funny because then maybe it just goes to show that my parents are now on the same wavelength. I wasn't adopted.
So when do we get to see the secret pages from Kirisu's diary? I've heard you have them. That you're holding out on everybody.
Yes.
Waiting for the right time.
Of course. No, you need to give me some more time for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Oh, there's
There
going
are
to be
rumors
a
on
lot
the
of...
internet about that.
Good. There
Yeah.
should be.
Those are the
I have like
best kinds.
CCTV cameras on everybody. No, I'm joking. Nobody's going to come to my club then after that.
Well, now you can download CIA code and use their bots.
There you go.
So you are now expanding in your former backyard, London.
Yeah.
How
We've
does it
already
feel?
expanded.
Okay.
But we've opened the hotel there.
So tell us about it.
So it's it's a beautiful hotel. It's a grade 2 listed building. It is a 180-year-old.
Only
functioning-
180?
only 180. It was a former grammar school
Okay.
that was converted to a college, that was converted to a dentistry school, then was abandoned for 20 years, almost 15 to 20 years before we took it over. And we bought it at the Christie's auction.
Okay.
And it's a restoration project. It took us almost 5 years, 3 years in just planning, 2 years in actual going in there.
Yeah.
Somehow karmically we've pretty much had most of it. 6 hotels of ours have been restoration projects. So it didn't surprise us that this would be another restoration project. London is a museum city.
Of course.
So they are very, very particular
Yes.
about the facade, yes,
Yes.
about the techniques being used, about the Laden plaster, about the plaster of Paris, about so I learned a lot on that. You know, this is a bit of a culture shock where, you know, from here where you're sort of do whatever you want. No, of course you can't do whatever you want here, but it was just that they're so particular about the planning. But once you have it planned and you have all the go-aheads ready, then there is no disturbance on going and doing it. We did have to do some piling work because we got a basement where I actually got I got a spa, I got offices for my team, and the back of the house. So that was the tricky part because of course it is going under the foundation of the building.
Yeah.
And also this part of London it's on Tooley Street, which is basically right next to Tower Bridge.
Okay. A
In
great
fact,
location.
you're pretty much on Tower Bridge. It's just that you have us and one Tower Bridge, this residential complex, and the people who we bought it over, which is Barclay Homes, and this killed our view. But otherwise, you could have had views from the rooms onto Tower Bridge, exactly on Tower Bridge. So this part of London was actually bombed in the Second World War.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of fear in around the river that there were still sort of dead bombs underneath the buildings.
Yeah.
That are of course not live, but they're still just there.
Right.
So when we were excavating that, we were just hoping that we won't find, which we didn't.
Okay.
Also because of it being a museum city, the London Museum actually can come and they can see the excavation and stop the project if they want, if they find something, which they did. So that was good.
Okay. So now you're in London. Any other plans to go to other cities?
It's a common question that is being asked, and maybe Paris. Right now, I think we're just so focused on making London a big success. And within London, I want to open more of my restaurant. We've taken Baluchi, which is also here in Chandigarh.
Yeah.
So it's now become like almost a brand of ours, just like the Lalit. So this is again our 6th Baluchi, which is the London one. And it's beautiful because it's actually in the Great Hall, which was where the mess used to happen, and the mass. So the morning mass and the Sunday mass used to happen there. They used to have a giant organ there, and this is where they would assemble. So it was their morning assembly as well, and so their restaurant is there, and you have these beautiful 4 Hyderabadi chandeliers which weigh 1 ton each, and under this sort of cobalt blue ceiling, which is beautiful, and so that restaurant, where I also have this concept called the Nannery, which is a play up on nunnery with naan, which is a bread, and it's a bread bar, and we basically do these Hindustani rotis where we pair them with wine, which I've trademarked.
Okay.
And I'm hoping to actually open more of the nanneries and more of Baluchi in and around London first, because I'm not treating it as a restaurant, hotel restaurant.
Understood.
It's going to be treated as almost a standalone. The negative connotation of hotel restaurants in the Western world, where most people don't go unless you're not a Michelin star rated. Most people would rather go to a restaurant outside of a hotel. But this is not your atypical hotel, and it's not your atypical restaurant. So,
no, it's a fascinating concept. It's a great play on words. You're in a incredibly busy market, meaning a market in general. The joke I hear often back in Chandigarh is that in 20 years, most of the British Parliament will be Punjabi. So you're in an area where you don't have to sell any of the cuisine at all.
Absolutely not. People know.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, they know more than probably we do.
No, I understand. Now, here at the Lalit in Chandigarh, you have this forest view going on.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
What is there to say? It's
whatever is true.
It's beautiful. Are you talking about the nuances?
No, it's got great ambience.
Yeah.
And I understand why it's called that, because you see the trees.
You see the trees, and you see them pretty much. So if you go up to our Legacy Lounge on the top floor, you have probably the best view. And I would highly recommend anybody to go there. It's on where all our suites are, it's in the suite floor, and this is the lounge that we give access to all the people staying in the suites and the presidential suite, and you can just see how beautiful the view is. And that's one of the reasons why I'm actually doing this Kitty Co, which is an amalgamation of Kitty Suonoko, outside, because I really feel that the alfresco, the outside area of the hotel deserves attention, and it should just throw some light to the beautiful view that we've got of forest.
No, it really does. You're out there, the ambience is fantastic, the view's fantastic, you can breathe nice air, you don't have to stay inside.
No.
You've got excellent food. Again, it's the whole package.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is consistent with this whole Lalit experience. And again, I say this having been in, over 24 countries. I just got back from Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Saw a lot of the 7-star hotels.
Of course.
But they were missing something.
Yeah.
I won't go into specifics, but
No, I know what you mean. I've been to both the cities.
Yeah. So you need to touch down there at some point and show them, lead by example.
Yeah.
It's just something.
Yeah. It's just that in Dubai and Abu Dhabi they just have like 900 bedroom hotels or 1,000 bedroom hotels. It's difficult to make those really homely.
Yes.
When it's so large and the inventory is so large. So.
But I think what happens is people will miss a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Where you've got focus.
Yeah.
Because I walked into one of them and it reminded me of Trump Tower. People were also living there, and you didn't know who was who.
No, true.
For your help, just
Absolutely.
and I just needed to use the internet, so it was.
No, absolutely. And and for example, the Chandigarh hotel, even though it's a forest view, but it's still a business hotel, and
Yeah.
it's still got that sort of open and sort of very large footprint. But at the same time, what I think differentiated is what you're saying is that there is this sort of comfort level of just the basic namaskar that everyone does as soon as you enter the hotel to the time you leave. And and then this particular hotel, I don't know if everyone's noticed or not, but the natural light that you get everywhere as soon as you enter the hotel, we in fact don't have that much of lighting in our lobby. It's all the natural light that is coming from outside, and that's why we have these high windows and everything to basically just the natural light and the view, and to sell that. And then if I look at my Delhi hotel, which is also a 450 bedroom hotel, it's 28 floors. It was one of the first few skyscrapers of Delhi. Could have also gone to a very, very cold route, but there is still a sort of familiarity and sort of homeliness about the hotel there too.
Again, I think that's a differentiator, especially in today's world where it needs to stand out.
Yeah.
I think especially, and I've heard this feedback from many people I've met relatives visiting and friends, they go into other hotels, some of your competitors here, and there's one or two things that just bug them. And I remember years ago that used to not be the case. I have never heard anybody say that about here.
So kind of you.
I'm just being honest with you, just being honest. And
Thank you.
Again, the holistic and attention to detail.
Yeah. So our tagline that we're using now is traditionally modern, subtly luxurious, and distinctly Lalit. And I think that just says it all.
It does.
It does it all. It just captures us.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, and to whoever there is behind the camera.
It's only the whole online world. There's only 4 billion people online.
I know.
So, what the hell?
Say hi to them.
Hello.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was very kind of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.